I just don't want to have to be, you know, smelling it everywhere I go or seeing it being used or having people drive while high and all this stuff. Just understand, the way this is written, you may not have any interest in marijuana, but marijuana will have interest in you. And this will impact the quality of life and the culture of the state of Florida. There's just no other way about it. And I can tell you that you should never vote for an amendment if they're telling you, oh, yeah, it's flawed, it can be fixed by the legislature. Why the hell didn't they write a good amendment to begin with then? Why should you vote for something and then pray that the legislature's going to fix it? It's BS. So it's obviously not about freedom, and because, you know, you're not going to be free from it. You're not going to have the freedom to grow your own. But here is how you know what the scheme is. This is one of the most egregious things I've ever seen attempted in the state of Florida. Actually, probably I don't think any state anyone's had the gall to try to do this. So again, this was drafted by the CEO of a mega weed company that's put $141 million into that. So obviously they're expecting a major payoff. And how do they ensure that? Well, the one, like I said, you can't grow your own. They don't provide that, but you can buy it from them. But then they also do this. They grant themselves and the other weed companies total immunity from civil liability or any sanctions under Florida law. And so, you know, if you read this, again, this is not in the ballot summary. If you read the ballot summary, you'd have no idea this is here. But this is under the section about the medical marijuana, about the marijuana companies. So it says, any of these companies acting in accordance with this section as it relates to acquiring, cultivating, processing, manufacturing, selling, and distributing marijuana products and marijuana accessories to adults for personal use shall not be subject to criminal or civil liability or sanction under Florida law. Do you see any exceptions in that language? This matters. The language they use really matters. So this is like an immunity shield that even would make Big Pharma blush. This is Big Pharma on steroids to have blanket immunity. So what does that mean? Well, if they sell you defective marijuana, you can't sue them. If they're distributing it, truck of marijuana going to a dispensary, and they run somebody over, they have immunity for distribution. You can't sue them. Is there anybody that can honestly justify this language being in Florida's Constitution? And think about it. The way this petition amendment process was envisioned in 1968 when Florida's Constitution was created, they never envisioned that there would be one company that would spend $140 million. They thought it would be like, you know, PTA moms, you know, working in the neighborhood to get petitions to do something, you know, whatever. And if that was how this came into being, you would have had a totally different amendment written. If this was grassroots activism, there's no way grassroots activists would have immunized these big companies. It just would not have happened. So this is very reckless to put in the Constitution. Again, on your ballot, if you read it, you would have no clue that was in here. You got to read the actual text of the amendment, and that's that. And I think it's really, really outrageous that one company would write it and provide that level of immunization for themselves. So this will cause huge problems. I don't think any other state has anything even close to this. So you can think about kind of how this has worked out in other states, and I think it's worked out very terribly in these states. But that's just scratching the surface with this amendment. I think Florida's going to have way more problems than any of those states had because this text matters. This is what courts are going to apply. And when you write a blanket immunity, I can tell you this. If this passes, they go in, they sell somebody weed, it's defective, maybe someone has a seizure, and they go into court. Do you think the weed company's lawyers are going to say, oh, yeah, you know, we're liable? Or are they going to cite this provision and say we're immune? Of course they're going to cite the provision. That's why it's there. So really, really reckless that that's going on. Now, you'll also hear, well, this will generate huge amounts of money for education And for law enforcement, again, the text of this amendment, there is nothing in this amendment that allocates any funding, zero, zilch, to education, to law enforcement, or to anything. In fact, there's no guarantee the legislature would even tax it. But here's the problem: when you tax it, it raises the price. What does that do to the black market? It increases the black market because the black market can service the consumers at a lower price. Obviously, when you're removing any prohibitions and people are using it in public and it becomes a bigger part of the culture, use increases and demand increases, so that black market will grow dramatically. So this idea, they'll run these commercials, oh, let's have a safe, regulated market, get rid of marijuana on the street. Colorado, California, New York, everywhere that's done it, without fail, the black market has ballooned. It's gotten much bigger. So do not vote for this thinking that the black market will go away. It will not. It will get bigger, and they'll have an ability to undercut the price as a result of this amendment. So.
That was Governor Ron DeSantis speaking in Tampa, talking against Amendment 3. That has been a big topic of his. Yesterday, he spent much of the day talking against Amendment 4, but today, Amendment 3 has been the focus so far. I do want to go ahead and let you know we are monitoring, waiting for the start of an event with Casey DeSantis, the First Lady. This is in Orlando. That is expected to start around 11:15. She has also been traveling the state, speaking out against Amendment 3. So we will see. I expect that to be the topic this morning. Don't know for sure. We will find out shortly. This is at Dockside, Lake Nona. And again, this is expected to start around 11:15. So we are going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we will be right back after this. And Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner joins me now. And Brooks, things going to be looking pretty good as we look ahead to Halloween.
Absolutely, Garrett. We are in the middle of a beautiful weather pattern that'll last through at least the middle of next week. And so we're going to have a breeze today out of the east, and what that means is that our weather's coming off of the Atlantic Ocean. So we'll see nice cool temperatures on the beaches because we've got now relatively cool waters of the Atlantic's. Water temps running in the mid-70s, so that means an onshore flow will push us to about 81 New Smyrna. But the farther away you get from the water, the warmer it'll be. 85 Orlando, about 86 in Bushnell and Winter Haven, and into the upper 80s around the Tampa Bay region. So you'll notice this afternoon the humidity is a little bit lower, but with that onshore flow, we're also going to catch a lot of wave action. And we've already seen it. This morning we had a high tide shortly after 7:30 in the morning, and there's almost no beach left over. Tide's going out. We'll see a low tide around 1:30 this afternoon, but the rip current risk will be very high all day long, and we could see some breaking waves of up to 8 feet in spots. So we're looking like anywhere from 4 to 8 feet for wave action. So in fact, a lot of folks are discouraging folks from even entering the water. If you're going to the beach, just best to watch it from the shore, especially if you're in town on vacation. High surf advisories are in effect, but it's not good surfing weather because it's just so confused. It's coming in from different directions. It's non-shore flow. There's not like your clean surfing waves to really enjoy, unfortunately, for surfers. Winds out of the east right now between about 15 and 25 miles per hour in gusts. So the breeze will actually make it feel really delightful this afternoon. As long as you're just, away from the water, it's going to kind of mix things up and make it feel good with very blue skies. Very few clouds out there. Look at that flow, though, coming in over Lake Fairview. The palm trees blowing in the wind. You can see the ripples from the fetch there coming across the lake. So really good sailing weather today on a catamaran if you have the opportunity. Temperatures in the upper 70s will warm up into the mid 80s for the afternoon for highs. So we go from 78 degrees right about now up to 84 at 4, probably touching 85 between 4 and 5 p.m. before we start the fall into the 70s this evening. Now, as far as all that moisture goes, over Florida earlier this morning we had some showers. This was most of the action before dawn, represented in yellow. And as the day progresses, we're going to see dry air continue to move in from the east, and so that's going to clear the clouds out and eventually drop the relative humidity values. So if you go for a jog this evening, it'll feel considerably drier than it did this morning, that's for sure. Looking at our Halloween forecast for tomorrow, it really couldn't be finer for the trick-or-treaters. We're going to see about 79 degrees at 6 for the early goings-outers, the young ones, about 76 by 7, and at 8 o'clock, the prime of trick-or-treating, close to 74 degrees. Really ideal conditions for us. All right, let's talk about Tuesday. Next Tuesday is Election Day, and this is a weather forecast, not a forecast for the winter. Yeah, if only, right? If only I had that information. 78 degrees at 9, 85 degrees for the high temperature at 5. Weather will not be a factor in your ability to go vote. Not dealing with blizzards or rainstorms or anything tropical, so that's very good news. But in the tropics, we've got to watch this area in the Caribbean for the possibility of development. There's a medium chance, about a 40% shot, that this weekend we may see a tropical depression developing. And if it becomes a storm, the name would be Patty. Patty, I say Patty, people have been like, Patty, is that with D's? No, it's with T's, it's Patty. Patty. In any sense, hopefully we don't see Patty, but Florida impacts are unlikely regardless of the name, and when it develops, it is likely going to drift west. The latest computer models are in a general agreement that we'll have a slow development and that whatever forms will move toward Mexico. All right, let's talk 7-day forecast. Breezy weather today. Tomorrow's Halloween. It'll be very nice with 84 degrees, 85 for Friday and Saturday. Don't forget, this is the weekend we fall back. It's the end of daylight saving time. We get an extra hour of sleep. However, the sun rises early at 6:39 and sets way early at 5:38. So, if you get off work at 5 o'clock, there's not going to be much time if you need to go for that evening jog to do so before the sun sets. We have a chance for a few showers this weekend, but overall, a very dry setup for us for the next 7 days. And then Election Day, just picture perfect weather for anybody who has to get out and about. But I know, Garrett, a lot of folks are doing the early voting thing this year, so maybe the Election Day forecast won't be as important.
Yeah, but we've got a good stretch now, too. So
we sure
not really a whole lot of excuses there either for folks to go ahead and get out, whether that is between now and Sunday or whether that's on Tuesday. So this is a nice stretch of weather we got going right now.
It is indeed. Enjoy it.
All right. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Brooks Garner, we appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
All right, and today also marks 3 weeks now since Hurricane Milton hit Florida, and communities all across the state of Florida are still cleaning up. And we have seen the pictures of the damage, and that should come as no surprise that this is still an ongoing process. Now, Fox 35's Amanda McKenzie spent the morning in Kissimmee, where downed trees there are still lining the sides of roads.
It's a similar scene along many streets. You can see this pile of debris behind me filled with branches and bags. quite a mountain of debris almost blocking the view of this home right here. This is all on Parade Avenue and Lehigh Street in Kissimmee. The city officials say it is scheduled for pickup this week, but this has been a long wait for homeowners staring at mountains of debris for nearly 3 weeks after Hurricane Milton swept through. You can take a look at this other video of piles of debris up and down the streets in Kissimmee. It's too much for regular trash pickup. Some piles are so high it obstructs the views of several homes. Neighbor Misty Rogers reached out to us, concerned about the amount of debris left to pick up across the city. As of yesterday on the city's website, it said her area was listed as, quote, evaluating impact.
It's just frustrating that we was told that we were going to have it picked up right after, Milton came through, and it's been weeks. Whatever couldn't fit in the trash can, I loaded it up in the truck and we hauled it off, and I had a bonfire because I wasn't going to have it sit there for weeks and weeks and weeks.
A city spokesperson tells us, please continue to check the map for the most current information. Thank you for understanding. Our crews work diligently to address all zones. The city also tells us the person in charge of updating the website had been out of the office, so that the schedule for pickup should soon be updated. Reporting in Kissimmee, Amanda McKenzie, back to you.
And Florida Power and Light is formally requesting a temporary 12-month rate hike. They say this is directly in response to Hurricanes Debbie, Helene, and Milton. So this rate hike, you see the details on your screen here, it would start January 1st and last through the end of 2025. The company says they need that rate hike because they spent $1.2 billion restoring power after Debbie, Helene, and Milton hit Florida this year. So the process, here's how it works. Any rate hike would have to be approved by the Public Service Commission. And FPL is estimating that customers who use 1,000 kilowatts of energy a month would see about a $12 increase in their monthly bills. So more impacts there that we could see from the several hurricanes that hit our state this year. Well, we are going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus. We are still standing by, awaiting the start of the Casey DeSantis news conference in Orlando. This is a live picture right now inside that room. We expect her to come up any minute now. We have seen a sign that was placed that said no on Amendment 3. So as expected, this will be another news conference where Casey DeSantis, the First Lady, speaks out against the legalization of marijuana. So we are monitoring this. We're going to take a quick break, and then we will be right back in just a minute. Well, welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. First Lady Casey DeSantis has taken the podium at Dockside Lake Nona, where she is joined by Florida Department of Health Surgeon General Dr. Joseph Ladapo and also Brevard County Sheriff Wayne Ivey. The placard on the podium says vote no on Amendment 3. Let's go ahead and listen in as the First Lady speaks in Orlando.
Because that is exactly what is happening under Amendment 3, but it's worse than that, because when they wrote this constitutional amendment, they put some really interesting language in there. One of which is they'll say this is about freedom, right? This is about freedom, the free state of Florida. That is false. Because when you see freedom, they say, well, you can use marijuana, but only if you use our product. Only if you use it from the corporate cartel. Then they say, yeah, it's freedom, but you know what? You can't grow it at your house and use it in your home because that is illegal to be able to grow it at your house. And third, this is particularly egregious when you look at, and it is not in the ballot summary, you will not see this, you have to go look at the constitutional text itself. They give themselves blanket, sweeping liability protections. And so if you read it and you look, it says, acting in accordance with this section as it relates to acquiring, cultivating, processing, manufacturing, selling, and distributing marijuana products and marijuana accessories to adults for personal use shall not be subject to criminal or civil liability or sanctions under Florida law. So you think about that. You say that this product is safe, then why did you give yourself sweeping liability protections civilly and criminally? And then do you also know, did they know this when they gave themselves these liability protections, that this will, as it has everywhere else it has been tried, leads to a huge black market? Do they know, I'm sure they do, that with the black market comes a lot of bad products that hit the streets? And why is there a black market, right? Because when you have a regulated product and it's taxed, the black market comes in and swoops underneath and undercuts the price. So more people go there, but it's not regulated. We don't know where this stuff is being manufactured. And if you think that the black market cares about cleanliness, they don't care. So did they give themselves liability protections because they, in essence, know that people are going to get hurt using bad weed? But they're covered, right? You're not, but they are, which I think is egregious. And by the way, when you hear, oh, the legislature will come in and they'll be able to fix it, the legislature cannot rein this in. This is a constitutional amendment that cannot be undone. And law enforcement, as you'll hear in a second, they will be rendered powerless to do anything about it, because under this, when you look at, and we'll get into the public use in a second, non-medical personal use of marijuana products by an adult is not subject to any criminal or civil liability. So when you talk about my second point in this, when I looked at the first, the precedent is a bad reason to vote against it. You don't want another corporation to come in and hijack our Constitution. The other one is everywhere you go in the state of Florida, inevitably, it's gonna reek of pot. And if you don't believe me, ask the people who are coming from Colorado and New York and California and all of these people who are escaping to the free state of Florida because they can't handle the smell. If you don't want Orlando to smell like New York City, vote no on Amendment 3, because it'll be everywhere. And just like I said, law enforcement will not be able to rein this in. This is a constitutional right. They won't be able to do anything. So let's say, for instance, you're standing at line at Universal Studios with your kids, and somebody decides that they're going to light up and smoke a joint right next to your children and they're going to blow it in their face. There's nothing that can be done to stop it. They have a constitutional right. Let's say you're at the playground with your kids, or at a church, or a condo, or a hotel, or a library. Goes on and on. There is nothing, no limitations on public use in this constitutional amendment. And then you say, okay, they make this argument, right, about freedom, which again, remember, when they say freedom, you can only use our product, the corporate cartel's product. We're giving ourselves liability protections, and you can't grow it at home, so that's their, argument for freedom. But what about the freedom of the people who do not want this? Their rights are being infringed. What about their freedom? They're being left out of this equation. You want to be able to go enjoy life with your children. You want to be able to go to a Little League game and sit there and be able to breathe. You have zero recourse. And again, if this passes, you will not be able to get the genie back in the bottle. This will become mainstay. And then you say, well, again, going back to the legislature, they can't do anything. But Colorado, they did put prohibitions on this when they passed it, by the way, and they'll admit that it failed. But they're not enforcing it. They're not doing anything to stop it. So once this happens, you cannot unring this bell. Then the other third part, I think, is needs to be a part of the conversation, too, is just the well-being of the state, the future of this state, our families, and particularly our children, right? Can anybody look me in the eye and tell me that this is a good thing for our kids? To show the precedent it sets by saying, you know what, recreational is a really good thing, there's no adverse effects to it. No. Anywhere it's been tried. Talk to the people who are there. As a matter of fact, when you talk to the Chamber of Commerce, one of their counterparts over in Colorado said, whatever you can do, stop it now. Stop it now before it gets out of control. But for our children, there needs to be, and it's there in some capacities, an understanding about what this means to their health. So you look at the marijuana of the 1970s and you fast forward to today, this stuff is 25 and 30 times more potent. Dr. Latipo, our great Surgeon General, is going to tell you absolutely there is a link, especially for children who are predisposed, who are using marijuana a lot, to schizophrenia and psychosis. I've seen it firsthand. It's like I've had the privilege and the honor, really, just to be able to travel around this state and to meet a lot of really wonderful people. And I actually went to Jackson Memorial Hospital, and I was at one of the Baker Act receiving facilities, and I was talking to one of the physicians who was on the front lines. As the kids are coming into the facility, they go through a 72-hour wait period. And this is a time where I really didn't know that much as I know today about the adverse effects of marijuana, particularly on a developing brain. And I asked him, I said, do you see, does marijuana play a factor in any of this stuff? And he looked at me straight in the eye without hesitation and said, it is undeniable. They're seeing these kids coming in with really bad mental health problems. They see it. And so therefore, now we're going to have more product on the market because that's what it's going to mean. And are we for a second not going to believe that that's going to lead to more use, particularly for our kids? And the other thing that really makes me mad, and you answer me this, why do they package this stuff like gummy bears? Why do they do that to our kids? Do you know what happened in California when they did this? Calls to the poison control hotline went up 445% for kids who got into marijuana because of like gummies and lollipops and cookies and brownies and all of this stuff. So you look at their future, that's not good for them. Then you're going to hear in a second about all of the problems that you see on the roadways. So of course it's going to lead to more accidents. It's in the data. We see it everywhere it's been tried. Fatalities relating to marijuana on our highways, on our streets, went up double-digit percent. So like in Oregon, I think it went up 22%. So of course it's going to happen. That's going to impact every one of you. And I would even argue that that number is higher because it's hard to determine a lot of times with the equipment that these guys have to be able to test for the levels of THC. But you're seeing this happen in society. Ask the people who are fleeing to the free state of Florida where this has been tried. Do you regret this decision? Do you enjoy walking down the streets of New York City or in San Francisco and smelling pot everywhere you go? Because if this passes, you will not be able to undo it. The legislature won't be able to do anything. Law enforcement won't be able to do anything to police it. It's done. And then a couple other points, too. One about...
You have been listening to First Lady Casey DeSantis speaking in Orlando, making points against Amendment 3. She has been making a number of stops around the state, especially in the closing days of this campaign, speaking out and offering arguments against Amendment 3. as the that is one of the amendments, that and Amendment 4 that have been getting a lot of attention. Obviously, legalization of marijuana being Amendment 3. So we're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but when we come back, we're going to give you the other perspective, because yesterday we heard from two state senators, one of them a Republican, one of them a Democrat, who made stops at several dispensaries across the state of Florida. I think they made 4 stops yesterday, and they are speaking in favor of Amendment 3. So we did play part of that for you yesterday. We're going to play a different segment for you today as they kind of offer that counter argument as they support Amendment 3. So we're going to take a quick break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back with more after this. Well, welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I am Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us here on this Wednesday morning, live on fox35orlando.com, the Fox 35 News app, and on Fox Local. Still a lot of talk about Amendment 3 here in the closing days of the campaign. Amendment 3 would legalize recreational marijuana for folks in Florida over the age of 21. You heard from Casey DeSantis just a few minutes ago. She is still speaking here in Orlando. We heard from Governor Ron DeSantis speaking in Tampa. He is still speaking at the moment as well. Yesterday, we heard from State Senators Joe Gruters from Sarasota and Chevron Jones from Miami Gardens. Gruters is a Republican, Jones is a Democrat, and they have teamed up to show their support, bipartisan support, for Amendment 3 and the measure that would legalize recreational marijuana in Florida. They made stops yesterday at a number of Trulieve dispensaries. So Trulieve is one of the largest medical marijuana operators in the state of Florida. They made a stop, and Trulieve has also given millions and millions of dollars to this campaign in support of Amendment 3. Now, State Senators Joe Gruters and Chevron Jones spoke yesterday. Among the things they spoke about in support of Amendment 3 is their next steps that would address some of the criticisms that we're hearing about Amendment 3. So let's listen in.
Let's talk about homegrown, because I know that's an issue that the other side's bringing up. I know the Senator Jones and I both are for home grow. We'll probably write a bill together to make sure home grow is part of that implementing bill. The proponents of Amendment 3, they believe it's a complementary type service where they could sell clones and seeds to people. We're all for all freedom. A lot of people some people may want to do that. Some people wanted the convenience of going to the store. But ultimately, this is about freedom and letting people do what they want. That's one of the issues. Another issue is the monopoly issue. Think about this: 25 different companies right now have the ability that have to dispense marijuana through the medical license company. Another 22 companies are sitting, or 22 licenses are sitting on the governor's desk. He can sign that right now. That's 47 different companies. The idea that there's any type of monopoly is completely over the top and wrong. And I'm trying to think what other issues they're pushing.
licenses in the bill.
Yeah. And listen, we in the legislature ultimately control all types of licenses. We could have 500 licenses. It was us that made that decision. It was us, the legislature, which I voted against, by the way. I think there was 5 people. Kim may not like that, but I think she knows it. There was 5. I didn't like some of the things, but now looking back on it over the years, the vertical integration I think is actually a good thing, and I think it controls the process and it can make sure that we get the safe product ultimately to the consumer.
I always want to remind people that about 8-9 years ago, the legislature came together and implemented medical marijuana. We didn't have this back. And Skylar, you were part of these conversations, and we came together. Katie Edwards and Matt Gaetz, a Democrat and Republican, just like now, came together and created what we see now, when we have the True Leaves and the other companies that exist. So this misinformation, as far as, and Joe, thank you for just outlining not just the importance, but the benefit that it comes with to the state of Florida, and how this is really not a partisan issue. And I think we need to continue to, and we should continue to make sure we elevate that.
Yes.
Thank you for taking the professor today. Could you, you actually refreshed my memory about the dozen or so licenses that were earmarked for those tied to the Pickford during the telehealth passage. Could you talk about that a little bit and just maybe talk about the role that is going to play in some of this process?
I'll let you take it.
Yeah, well, first we know that there have been a huge fight when it came to as far as the licensing for black farmers. But I will tell you that I think we are past that now.
Tracy Davis.
Senator Tracy Davis and Senator Darrell Roussan have been. When I say they have worked tirelessly with leadership to get those 5 licenses, it has happened. And so it's moving and it's working.
So it's 5 licenses they're issued.
Mm-hmm, they're issued.
And could you give the public an idea in terms of this implementing bill, what would likely be in the implementing bill, and how do you go about getting that passed when you have a governor who's like adamantly opposed to this and is of the position that the state will be powerless to do anything?
Let's start with the party control first, and then
Listen.
and then come to me next. I'm gonna tell you what I'm fighting for.
I'm going to break Shem in. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to tell him exactly what he's going to vote for.
This is where the disagreement gonna start.
But ultimately, here's the deal. Just because, elections are, the public's going to make a decision. Either 60%, and this is a high threshold, 60% of the voters have to vote for this. And I think that if 60% plus 1 vote for this, which I think is going to happen, I think what's going to happen is the legislature will be forced to come together and we'll be able to create a framework that will work for everybody. And the way I look at it is, I already drafted a bill a couple of months ago, and I had Senator Roussan, another colleague, to come on as a co-sponsor to ban public smoking. But I think, as you get into the weeds, maybe it's just a ban of public consumption overall, so people can do it in their homes. They could do it in public consumption type rooms. Go back to tightening the zero tolerance while driving, and anything else you could imagine that I think that would be the necessary guardrails to make sure we protect the consumer who wants to consume and make sure they have the safe access, number 1. But number 2, protect the people that don't want to see it, don't want to smell it. And I think we can get it right. And listen, it may be hard for some people to swallow if they're on the losing side, but together, ultimately, we have to do what's right for Floridians, and we'll come together and we'll pass a bill that's going to be a win for everybody.
Yeah, the one big issue that I know myself and many of the members of the Black Caucus that we are interested in is retroactivity for those who have been arrested for low amounts of marijuana. It is something that I'm going to fight tooth and nail for, Skylar, and whatever the implementing bill look like. Hopefully amend it because I think it's important. Because if we're passing legislation like this, which I think is absolutely profound and long overdue, that is one area that I think that we not only need to focus in, but we owe it to make sure that we look into this and see what does it look like to ensure that we do some type of retroactivity for those individuals who have been arrested.
And I agree with them 100%.
Some bipartisan agreement there from Senators Joe Gruters and Chevron Jones. Again, that was yesterday, but we wanted to play that for you to kind of give you that other perspective that addresses a number of the points that we have heard from those against Amendment 3 a number of times over the past couple of days. So we are going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back with more after this.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I am Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us. So we've talked a lot about the amendments today, but let's also talk a little bit about the Senate race. So yesterday, during Fox 35 News Plus, we heard from Senate candidate, Democrat Debbie Mucarsel-Powell, and today we're going to hear from Rick Scott. So he has been going around the state as well, making his final push to voters, had a couple of get out the vote rallies across the state yesterday. We caught up with him in Ormond Beach, where he was with Volusia County Sheriff Mike Chitwood, and so we want to go ahead and play that for you. Again, this was yesterday in Ormond Beach.
Office, and I've run now. This is my fourth statewide election. It actually matters who gets the vote out. You can raise a lot of money and spend a lot of money on all these ads and all that stuff. It really matters. But you know who gets the vote out? Parties. It's the local RECs. It's the local women's groups. It's all the organized parties that get the people out. They have all the volunteers. They go knock on doors. They make phone calls. Campaigns do a lot of that stuff, and that's it. But the most of it, the work's done. And what you can say about this, if you look at the numbers right now, you can go to, there's two websites, Florida Voice and there's UF Election Lab. I mean, we are kicking their butts right now. Put in perspective, in all my races, we were behind on election day. Until we go into election day. Right now, Republicans are outvoting Democrats almost 2-1. So, what you guys in your team have done. So, I should look to see what your numbers are, but I looked yesterday. Your numbers were really good. You were like, it was
47 to 30.
Yeah. So it's unbelievable. You guys are doing great. And, Bill, it's nice to be in your city. Congratulations to your dad. So I love business, so it's interesting. He came down here 75 years ago. I guess he didn't start it 75 years ago, but he started business and has been successful. So thank you for doing that. Has Kevin got here? Yeah. Kevin, how long have you been open?
We opened 6 years ago.
How's it going?
Fantastic.
Isn't that fun?
Minus a few disasters here and there. We get
Yeah. I think we're all gonna get better at knowing how to use sandbags.
Yeah.
I'm on the West Coast, and we're all gonna learn how to use sandbags better and do way better to keep the water out of our places. We can't stop the storm surge, but we can sure as heck figure out how to stop it from getting into our businesses and our homes.
It was a great community.
It was
rallied quick. So.
Yeah. So it was. But congratulations on your business.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being
Great food. Great food.
So my first business was a donut shop. I bought it when I got out of the Navy, and I know how to sell donuts. So I tripled the revenues the first month. I bought it actually so my mom could have a job. I was still going to school full time and working full time at a grocery store, but she did really well with it. So let me make sure there's anybody else I need to recognize. No. Well, here's the deal. If you need something, if you don't tell me about it, I probably, maybe we'll get it done, but unlikely. So if you need something, you got to tell me. So I have a great team. We actually won for the best constituent services team of all House members, all senators last year. So if anybody comes in and say we won last year, our team did. So we have a great group of people. I've got a great campaign team. We're having fun. We're generally hitting 2 or 3 cities a day. Yesterday I was all up and down the West Coast. They still got hurt really bad. I was with Sheriff Purnell and Sheriff Huffman and Sheriff Ramboss. Sheriff Ramboss just wrote a really nice op-ed about me, and it's really not. He should have written about himself. He said that we had kept people alive, but really is sheriffs keep people alive.
Yep.
I mean, all you guys do a great job of getting people out. So here's the big thing: how many people haven't voted? Good. So not many. So generally, well, here's the value of voting early. Okay, so Paul and his team, we're going to do it. All of us are going to go spend our efforts to try to get everybody to vote. Okay, so we're going to send you texts. You might get a mail piece. You might get a phone call if you haven't voted. So if you're tired of those, go vote.
Go vote.
Senator, thank you.
So it sounds like a lot of people there took advantage of the early voting, and you can continue to do so through Sunday. Well, as this campaign continues, Titusville, a candidate for mayor in Titusville, is facing charges of theft. Mayoral candidate Vicki Conklin and her campaign manager are facing charges for allegedly stealing political signs owned by her opponent. Now, Conklin admitted to stealing the signs, investigators say, but told them that the signs had pictures of her on them that she didn't authorize. Titusville Police Chief John Lau answered questions from reporters about this incident.
Charged with anything at this point?
Well, we took the charges and forwarded it to the state attorney's office. We could have made a hands-on arrest. We chose not to. We thought in this case it was the right thing to do is get another set of eyes on it. I believe our investigators did everything above board and by the book, but this case has been forwarded to the state attorney's office for their review.
So there's no charge as of yet?
Yeah, so we actually have the charges forwarded there, but without their approval, it wouldn't happen. So to this point, I'm not sure. I have not been informed whether charges have been filed yet or not.
Chief, how many signs is she suspected of destroying, and what did those signs say?
So in this case, candidate Andrew Connors had 2 signs. They were the larger signs. I don't have the dimensions. One of them was known as the Ivy League, which is Sheriff Wayne Ivy's endorsement picks, where that was one of the signs. And then the other sign was, I guess, like a hybrid, something that candidate Connors drew up, and it apparently was taken from the, I want to say, the North Brevard Democratic endorsements, where it was endorsing candidate Vicki Conklin. So those were the two signs that were taken.
So she took a sign that was endorsing her, or when this hearing?
Yeah, it was a sign endorsing her, yes. But apparently, from her standpoint, she didn't give permission for that to be used.
So did that sign endorsing Vicki Conklin, did belong to Andrew Connors? Was that also a Connors sign?
Yes. So both signs were owned by Andrew Connors, or at least his campaign, and that's what it was. And you know, no matter what the reasons for taking it, when you take something that you know does not belong to you, well, in and of itself, that's theft. So.
Chief, have the signs been recovered? I mean, they were destroyed. Have they been recovered?
As to this moment, I have not heard of that, and I believe there were several attempts to try to find them to mitigate this, and none of them. I don't know if they're destroyed or not, but there have been no attempts to return them.
We haven't seen it yet, but what does the body worn camera video show?
So I actually have not viewed the body worn camera, so I don't know. I do know that there's conversations. It's not like detective work back when I was a real cop and did detecting, but everything now is done on body camera. So we don't have tape recorders, we don't have any of that. We just do it right on our body camera. So I'm sure the interviews of all witnesses and suspects are all on the body camera.
And then, sir, did you see Mr. Connors took the picture of her with the hammer, or is that someone else went up to her?
So that was the Titusville Police Chief answering questions about that case involving the one of the candidates for mayor there in Titusville. Well, we are going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we will be right back after this, so keep it here on fox35orlando.com, the Fox 35 News app, and on Fox Local. Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. A dog in distress in a canal in Palm Coast. Deputies there, Flagler County deputies, found a woman in a kayak trying to rescue a dog. She was having trouble though, so a deputy jumped in the kayak, paddled over to the dog and pulled him to safety. Check out the body cam video.
Just toss me out. Dude. I have this right here. All right. Yeah.
Hey,
My luck is going to be an alligator in here.
that was smooth, bro.
Come on, puppy. Watch that thing bite him.
Alex will be fine.
You got your phone?
Me?
Yeah.
No. Okay, can you go to the passenger seat and grab
No,
my
yeah,
phone?
he's got it. I got my camera on, but. My hero.
Hi. You got it? Yeah, he's fine.
I'm getting stuck. I gotta stop biting this.
Come on, buddy.
Give me that leash.
Oh, this sick.
It's got collars.
2 collars.
Train
You good?
collar and
I'm
good puppy.
I put my foot down. I was like, and there's no brown there.
There you go.
Yeah, we're already wet. Anyway.
Come here. Here, sit. 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 Sit down. Sit down.
Oh, how sweet is that? Glad that pup's going to be okay. That dog was turned over to animal control, later returned to their owner. That was Deputy Alex Wolf who made that rescue, and certainly not every day you see a wolf rescue a dog. Well, we appreciate you joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus. We will be right back here with another live half hour coming up this afternoon at 4:30. You can always keep it on Fox Local for the latest news. We appreciate you joining us. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.